Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, boys, let's start. So, today we are going to learn a very important topic. But before that, we are going to talk about the exchange of gases. Now, boys, if you guys remember, we learned that we have lungs, and inside the lungs, there are bronchioles, and we also learned that at the end of each bronchiole there are alveoli. Now let's suppose that I enlarge this one alveolus. Now, important thing that these alveoli, they are made up of just one layer of cells. Now, as these alveoli, they are made up of just one layer of cells. So it simply means that one cell we cannot observe or see with our naked eye. So it means that these alveoli, they are only visible under the microscope. Now, if you guys remember the last lecture, I have taught you that in one lung there can be 30 million alveoli. Next thing was that on the surface of these alveoli, there are networks of blood capillaries. Now, so boys, these are what? These are blood capillaries. And this is what? This is the wall of alveolus. Now, the plural is called as alveoli, singular is called as alveolus. Now, if you guys remember, I have taught you in the circulatory system chapter that the blood capillaries are also just one cell thick. So if I draw the diagram of one blood capillary, so even the blood capillaries, they are just one cell thick. Now it means that even the blood capillaries, they are microscopic. And another thing you guys have learned that there are gaps in between the cells of the blood capillaries. Now, what happens that from outside the air enters. Now, this air that enters from the outside, it contains 21% oxygen and it contains 0.04% carbon dioxide, while the blood, it contains 16% oxygen and 4% carbon dioxide. Now, it simply means that in the blood, the oxygen concentration is low, and in the inhaled air, the oxygen concentration is high. So what will happen that the oxygen from higher concentration will diffuse into the blood where there is low concentration. Where there is low concentration. Then, second thing which you observe, that in the inhaled air there is only 0.04% carbon dioxide, while the blood contains 4% carbon dioxide. It means that inside the blood the concentration of the carbon dioxide is high, and outside or in the inhaled air the concentration of carbon dioxide is low. So what will happen that the carbon dioxide will diffuse out of the blood, again by which process? By the process of diffusion from higher concentration to the lower concentration. From higher concentration to the lower concentration. Now, this is how this makes, you see, this is how the exchange of gases or swapping of gases takes place. Now, this exchange of gases, sometimes it is also referred as swapping of gases as well. Now, this exchange of gases, it is not a difficult process, it's an easy process. Question is, how is it easy? Now, please listen to this. You see, this is a 3 marks question which can come in the exam. First of all, how this, you see, this respiratory surface, now this alveoli, they are called as respiratory surface. Now, how this respiratory surface is adapted to perform this job of exchange of gases? Now, let me explain it to you guys. That one, that it provides large surface area. It provides large surface area for the exchange of gases. Now, if you guys know, I just told you guys that in each lung there are 30 million alveoli. An interesting fact, if we straighten these membranes of the alveoli of one lung, they will be equal to the size of a football ground. So huge surface is enclosed in so small organs called as lungs. So the first point, the importance of the respiratory surface is that they provide the large surface area for the exchange of the gases. Second, that the gases, they just have to diffuse 2 layers of the cell surface of the cells. Let me first write down, then I will explain it to you. That the gases just has to travel across 2 layers of cells. Now look here. What did I tell you? That there is one layer of cells of the alveolus, and there is one layer of cells of the blood capillaries. So overall there are how many layers? Just 2 layers of cells through which the gases will have to go in the blood or come out of the blood third thing, which is very important about the respiratory surface, is that they have extensive supply of blood capillaries, as they have extensive supply of the blood capillaries, so the exchange of gases between the blood and the external air becomes very easy and becomes faster as well. All right, boys, did you guys understand this? Right, boys?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, boys, we are going to learn the second topic, which is inhaling and exhaling. First of all, we are going to learn about inhaling or breathing in. Before I start explaining this topic, one thing I need to explain you guys, that this over here, this is a bone which is present in the middle of our chest. Right in the middle of our chest, this bone is present, and this bone, it is called as sternum. Next thing, that with the sternum, here we have the ribs which are attached. So these what? These are the ribs that are attached with the sternum. Now, boys, in between the ribs, we have special kind of muscles. There are two types of muscles over here. One type of muscles which are present on the inner surface or on the inner side. These muscles which are present on the inner side, these are called as internal intercostal muscles. Remember that the muscles between the ribs are called as intercostal muscles, and there are two types of intercostal muscles, one which are present internally and second one which are present externally on the outer side. The ones which are present on the outer side, these red ones, they are called as external intercostal muscles. They are called as external intercostal muscles. Did you guys understand, boys, about these rib muscles?
Yes, sir.
Right? So the muscles which are present in between the ribs, they are called as intercostal muscles, and there are two types of intercostal muscles. The ones which are on the inner side, they are called internal intercostal muscles, and the ones which are on the outer side, they are called as external intercostal muscles. Now these muscles, they have a very important role in breathing in and breathing out, or inhaling or exhaling. Now, first we are going to learn about the inhaling. Now let's suppose at these are the lungs, right? Now, this over here, this is the diaphragm. Now we say that this diaphragm is in dome shape position. Now, what is dome? Boys, you guys have seen in the mosques they have these kind of domes, or in the mausoleums there are domes like this, the mausoleums which are prepared by the Mughal emperors. Now, when we inhale, first step what happens, that this diaphragm, its muscles they contract, and when the muscles of the diaphragm they contract, at that time the diaphragm it becomes straight. Right, boys? Now, what is this? This is straight diaphragm. So let me write down what is the first step. What happens, that the muscles of diaphragm contract and diaphragm becomes straight. Muscles of the diaphragm contract and the diaphragm becomes straight. Right, boys? Now, as the diaphragm becomes straight, you guys can see now there is gap in between the diaphragm and the lungs. Can you guys see this or not?
Yes, sir.
All right. Next step, what happens, that at the same time that external intercostal muscles they contract. The external intercostal muscles they contract and internal intercostal muscles they relax. Now, guys, when the external intercostal muscles contract and internal intercostal muscles relax, at that time what happens, that the rib cage is pulled outward and upward. The rib cage is pulled outward and upward. Now, boys, I want you all to take both of your hands, put your hands on your chest, and inhale deeply. Do it now, boys, every one of you, all of you. Now, when you will inhale deeply by placing your hands onto your chest, you will feel that your chest is coming out and going upward. Now, boys, how many of you have done this? Raise your hand and you felt this. Only 3 boys, 4 boys only. Everyone do this experiment. Put your hand on your chest and inhale deeply. like this, you will feel that your rib cage is coming outward and upward. Huzafa Ahmad and Muhammad Abdur Rahman. You did not try this? Huzafa Ahmad. Looks like Huzafa Ahmad is not with us. He just joined the class and he is not there. Okay. Okay, boys, you can put your hands down. So, boys, interesting thing. When the rib cage will be pulled outward and upward, now what will happen? That there will become what? Space between lungs and rib cage. And diaphragm. Now, because of this, what will happen? Low pressure will develop inside lungs. Now, boys, you guys have learned one thing in physics, that air always travels from higher pressure to the lower pressure. Do you guys remember this or not? Have you learned that in physics or not, boys?
Yes, sir.
That air travels from higher pressure to the lower pressure. Now, there is low pressure in the lungs and outside the body, air pressure is high. So what will happen? So the air will rush from the outside to the inside of the lungs. So what happens? The air, it rushes from outside to inside of lungs. And this is how the breathing in process will complete. Right, boys? So this is how the breathing in process will complete. Now, boys, let me tell again that what did I tell you in the beginning? That we have two types of intercostal muscles. Now, as I told you, that the muscles present in between the ribs, they are called as intercostal muscles. And two types of intercostal muscles are internal intercostal muscles and external intercostal muscles. Now, what happens? That first of all, that the diaphragm muscles, they contract. Now, naturally, the diaphragm is dome shape. Naturally, the diaphragm is dome shape. But when the muscles of the diaphragm, they contract, the diaphragm, it will become straight. Now then, when the diaphragm becomes straight, there becomes gap in between the lungs and the diaphragm. At the same time, the external intercostal muscles, they contract, and the internal intercostal muscles, they relax. And because of this, the rib cage, that is being pulled outward and upward. And when the rib cage is pulled outward and upward, there becomes a space in between the lungs and the diaphragm and the rib cage. And because of that space, the air pressure inside the lungs decrease. The air pressure in between in the lungs, that decrease, but the air pressure outside the body is higher. So as the air pressure outside the body is higher, so what happens that the air rushes in from higher pressure to the lower pressure and the phenomenon of inhaling takes place. Understood everyone or not?
Yes, sir.
Right? Now, let me tell you few, see, exhaling, we do not have enough time to understand. So we'll do that in the next class, inshallah. So let me tell you few important things about the muscles. The muscles, they are always present in pairs. The muscles, they always present in pairs. And second point, that the muscles always work opposite to each other in a pair. Always work opposite to each other in a pair. Now, what does this mean? Now, it means that if one muscle contract in a pair, the other one relax. Now, look here. What did I tell you guys? That external intercostal muscle contract and internal intercostal muscles relax. So there is a pair of muscles, external intercostal and internal intercostal. Right, boys? And when the external intercostal muscle contract, the internal intercostal muscle relax. So it means that they both are working opposite to each other. All right, boys? Understood, boys?
Yes, sir.
Now, boys, if you guys have any question, you guys can ask. We still have 4 minutes left in the class, 5 minutes. Yes, boys, any question?
No, sir.
Okay, then let me quickly show you guys the video related to this, all right? We'll consume these 5 minutes for that video.
Sir, we cannot hear it.
You cannot hear?
No, sir.
All right. So I hope you hear now. which are required to learn about them during this whole process. Now, in this, we need to know about there is this nose, this is mouth, this is larynx. We have learned in detail about this lecture before. Here we have the epiglottis. This is trachea. This is bronchus. Plural is called as bronchi. Then this is lung. And this is called as diaphragm. Now this was about the breathing system. Now let's learn about the intercostal muscle. The question is, what are intercostal muscles? Now, if you see that in the middle of your chest there is a bone. Now, this bone which is present in the middle of our chest, this bone is called as sternum. Now, with this sternum, there are bones present which are present from the front, and they are going to the back as well. I will draw only few of them. There are 12 pairs of these bones, and these bones are called as ribs. We are not going into detail of the ribs in this topic. The more detail that will come in A levels. Now, these bones, they are called as ribs. Now, in between these ribs over here, there are muscles present, and these muscles are called as intercostal muscles. Now, over here, there are two types of intercostal muscles. One type of intercostal muscles are called as external intercostal muscles, and the other ones are called as internal intercostal muscles. Now, with the help of blue color, I'm going to show the internal intercostal muscles. Now, they are present lower to the external intercostal muscles. So these blue lines, they are representing the All right, boys. I'll share this lecture with you guys in the WhatsApp group. All right. All right, boys.
Yes, sir.
Okay. See you guys inshallah in next class. Take care and Allah Hafiz.
Yes.